So this video is called John Wheeler on Turning Einstein Upside Down. So I'm referring to an article back in 1984 from this magazine called Science Digest. On the cover it's saying Einstein's blunder. And the article deals with what John Wheeler says. He was an American theoretical physicist, and he was largely responsible for reviving interest in general relativity in the United States after World War II. And I've got a friend who says John Wheeler's got a lot of things wrong in relativity, and one of his videos is at that link. Anyway, the issue John Wheeler is dealing with in the article is he thinks Einstein wrong about quantum physics. So getting on to that issue. This is the title of the article. It's called Turning Einstein Upside Down. And the intro to the article goes along like this. And I don't think it's worth me reading through that. You can just read it for a minute if you like. It's not too important. Hopefully you had time to read that. And it continues on to say some more. I'll give you a few seconds to read that. Okay, on to the next slide. The article proper starts like this. When discussing the mystery of cosmic genesis, the University of Texas physicist John Wheeler is fond of citing the graffiti from the walls of a cafe in downtown Austin. And it says, "Time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening all at once." That Wheeler will find something of value in a graffiti brought to him by students speaks worlds for the awesome way of thinking of his mind, willing to go to anywhere, ask any question, make a fool of himself 100 times and so forth. And Wheeler contends that physics is in the early stages of a new scientific revolution, as radical as the intellectual convulsion that produced relativity and quantum mechanics in the first 3 decades of the 20th century. He calls this new paradigm recognition physics. And he says today's physics seems to bore a tunnel through a mountain of mystery, working from both ends. And he describes the revolution of physics, which he thinks is coming, as distinguished colleagues in the world of elementary particle physics make marvellous headway with the idea that everything is built on a geometry of 11 dimensions. They take geometry and its dimensionality as a given. However, they and all of us know that no theory which presupposes dimensionality will ever explain dimensionality. Therefore, it is essential to keep boring from the other end, to proceed from the foundations of quantum theory to an understanding of why there is any such thing as time and space and dimensionality. That is the task of recognition physics. So skipping on a bit because we want to deal with what was said about Einstein. And this is what the article goes on to saying: talking with Wheeler and reading his writings is like watching a chess grandmaster simultaneously take on a score of other chess masters in some kind of cosmological super tournament. The meditations about Einstein are particularly intense. Throughout, Wheeler seizes upon possibilities raised by Einstein's work that Einstein himself rejected or used very differently. For example, the speculations about singularities. Nowhere is this difference clearer than the way that Wheeler turns Einstein's passionate criticisms of quantum theory on their head, where the greatest physicist since Newton argued that quantum mechanics' bizarre holism signalled that something was fundamentally wrong about the theory. Wheeler sees a precious clue to understanding the creation mystery. So what he's doing is he's looking at ideas that Einstein rejected and changing what Einstein says to mean something different to what Einstein originally meant it to mean. And so that is kind of moving things on from Einstein. And so what I want to point out here, if you read the rest of it, says, for example, whenever one of the photon's alter egos manifests itself in all encounter with a recording device or the others, no matter how physically remote they may be, instantaneously received word that chance has destined them to remain stillborn in the quantum never never land. Basically what he's dealing with is the idea that they can't go faster than light idea of C in the vacuum, which is often credited to Einstein. Quantum theory seems to violate that, and quantum theory seems to allow faster than light. But often people try to place the restriction on quantum theory that it doesn't allow faster than light, and then they come up with something called quantum field theory. And when quantum theory is allowed to have faster than light, there are often attempts as excuses as to why it does not violate special relativity. And so what I want to know at present time, based on experiments, physicists now seem to believe non-locality. And you can read what he says there in that clip. I'll give you a few seconds to read it. So moving on. And so basically what he seems to be now saying is, as well as spatial non-locality, there's also temporal non-locality. Right, on to the next. And now you can consider a thought experiment. I'll let you read that for a few seconds. So on to the next. So if you've got a detector, it can be arranged so that it will show the wave nature of light, or you could have another detector showing the particle nature of light. And he's considering the case here of a detector which will reveal the wave-like nature. Right, now he says, when he says crazy, that's meaning it does not make sense. There are theories such as Bohm's theory that light is a particle guided by a wave, which would be a description that would seem to make sense. But modern physics is stuck into refusing to go to a description that would make sense and sticks with what seems crazy. Anyway, carrying on, Wheeler has some thoughts to say. So, going with the craziness of the paradox they've created, Wheeler concludes it's wrong to talk with the root, and I'll let you read that. He comes up with this idea of a metaphor for a great spooky dragon. And this is the picture of the great spooky dragon in the article. So, if reading this bit, thus, Wheeler says, we are wrong to think of the past as having a definite existence out there. The past only exists insofar as it is present in the records of today, and what those records are is determined by what questions we ask. This is the special sense in which the act of observation is an elementary act of creation. So what he's saying now is the observing something as an act of creation. So even though observation is an act of creation, it is limited as to what you can create. You can't suddenly think of something which is physically impossible and then expect to see it. You've got to have a sensible possibility. So, skipping over now details about Wheeler's life in the article. Goes on, what is it about observing subatomic particle that forces the haze of subatomic alter egos to manifest themselves somewhere in space and time? Question mark. This is one of the great unanswered questions in quantum physics, says Wheeler, but for now at least he accepts crucial aspects of Bohr's approach to the observer problem. And so this bit of the article mentions that Wheeler's mentor was Bohr, and Bohr had an influence on him. And while the word Rubicon, it means a limit, that when passed or exceeded, permits of no return and typically results in irrevocable commitment. And it's based upon a bit of history of what Caesar did. So, since Wheeler is influenced by his mentor Bohr, it's worth noting that Wheeler's prejudice against Einstein's view on quantum physics comes from that. And Bohr and Einstein had a big fallout arguing about quantum physics, as noted by Wikipedia. Here's in the picture, it's Niels Bohr on the left. Further on in the picture, it's Einstein. So Bohr endorses in full Bohr's analysis of the nature of observers in quantum theory. And if you add, I note, if you add consciousness into the situation, then it sounds like ESP, extrasensory perception. But Wheeler does not want to involve consciousness and attacks believers in ESP. So this is making note that Wheeler is attacking people who believe quantum theory supports a belief in ESP. Anyway, despite that, there are many who believe there is an ESP connection in this physics. And so it's talking now about if Wheeler is successful in his scientific quest, he will do for physics what Darwin achieved for biology. He believes that the universe had to come into being in a higgledy-piggledy way, just as the order of genera and species came into being by the blind accidents of billions upon billions of mutations. And then it points out that Wheeler's vision differs a bit from Darwin's vision. And this is what Wheeler goes on to say about consciousness in regards to artificial intelligence and that. And my note is, well, consciousness is a mystery, and whether a machine can become conscious is yet another mystery. And so, talking about the machine, when the universe is a machine, and the article omits saying that many thought the machine was made by God. And I've given a quote from astronomy website which says that. So it goes on to say, and that's where I think physics went wrong in a big way, because there was a unified theory before Einstein which people were working on until it was abandoned, and it's described by this historian here as the Victorian theory of everything. So recall Bohr and Einstein had a big fallout arguing about quantum physics. Einstein's viewpoint would have been more in line with the older classical physics, which had the Victorian theory of everything. So the adoption of Bohr's point of view would have been another nail in the coffin of rejecting that physics, and in my view, a mistake. So this is the article carrying on with what Wheeler thinks, and in my view, not bothering to consider the Victorian theory of everything, and it's gone off on a wild goose chase. A wild goose chase is a hopeless quest, one that's pointless, and that's where physics has gone. You had the big argument between Niels Bohr and Einstein, and people like John Wheeler have taken Niels Bohr's point of view, and by doing so have ignored the Victorian theory of everything in physics before Einstein. That's the end. Thank you.